The dollar is now backed by the Mag 7, the nicest real estate, and the nicest farmland. And now all of a sudden, when you realize, oh, we're living in America, the largest wealth gap in American history. Why? Because foreign trading partners are bidding up all the scarce desirable assets, and everyone else is getting poorer in real terms. They're getting poorer in real estate terms, in gold terms, in Bitcoin terms, in Mag 7 terms. To me, that means gold is severely undervalued. Bitcoin is severely undervalued. The dollar is severely overvalued. For me, the US has found itself in a structural position where a weaker dollar is of national security. A higher Bitcoin and higher gold price is of national security.
Here's a reality Maulers doesn't sugarcoat it. The United States is functionally bankrupt, with over $35 trillion in debt, rising interest costs, and no political will to raise taxes or cut spending. The only path left is to debase the dollar to print more money and inflate the debt away. But the key question is, against which should the dollar be debased? By the way, if you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment below. It not only helps the channel grow, but also signals to the algorithm to share this content with more people like you. Let's continue.
A lot of the US debt is, backing future promises, whether that's with growth, with technology, with the military, with gold. And I figured Bitcoin would become a part of that story. And so that I remain holding that opinion. I do think that the United States will be the next material part of how governments think about Bitcoin, and they will be the ones that adopt it first for a variety of reasons. I think Bitcoin is very American in the ideals sense. Like, to me, America is one of the most popular startups of all time. Before it's a country, it's an idea. And the American idea and the Bitcoin idea, I think, are very similar. There's, everyone's treated equal, freedom in coming and going, freedom in opining, freedom of speech, like all of these core fundamental, democratic human principles, I think both ideas share. So I thought it aligned very well with America's innovative, technology first, idealist, philosophy. And then more practically speaking, the dollar has to get debased against something. We have to expunge our debt. We can't raise rates, and we can't reduce our spending. And so, Bitcoin, gold, like what are neutral assets that can play a role in the transition out of the chapter America's found itself in. And I always thought Bitcoin was going to play a role there. So that's my opinion. I'm sure other countries will adopt it in like Bhutan, for example. But I don't know. To me, I don't know. To what degree does that count? Didn't they have like a Terra Luna position or something? So, to me, all eyes are on the United States. The dollar is now backed by the Mag 7, the nicest real estate, and the nicest farmland. And now all of a sudden, when you realize, oh, we're living in America, the largest wealth gap in American history. Why? Because foreign trading partners are bidding up all the scarce desirable assets, and everyone else is getting poorer in real terms. They're getting poorer in real estate terms, in gold terms, in Bitcoin terms, in Mag 7 terms. And so then we have an election in Donald Trump where he wins by popular vote, by the way. Insane. Red sweep.
Yeah.
Because the majority of the country is getting obliterated and is poor in real terms. And this kind of monetary era of printing, doing no work, printing pieces of paper, and in return getting real stuff, and letting these pieces of paper that we're exporting come back in and bid away a quality of life for all of our people. Like, it's ran its course, and the people are voting like, please save us. So that's where I think we are. And the way that the US saves itself is, it has to expunge and debase the debt, and we have to go back to a neutral reserve, currency. Like, the last thing I'll say, and I hope all this is making sense. You guys will ask me questions or let me know, but China imported 1,000 tons of gold last year. Okay. So they're not buying treasuries. They're buying Mag 7. They're buying farmland in the US. They're buying real estate, kind of, and they're buying a lot of gold. Okay. If gold was $20,000 an ounce, China ran a neutral trade. They didn't run a trade surplus, right? So if what Trump is trying to solve is reduce the trade surplus, reduce the wealth gap in the United States, right? To me, that means gold is severely undervalued. Bitcoin is severely undervalued. The dollar is severely overvalued. I can solve the United States problem in 10 seconds. The problem is I don't know how to get you reelected, but I can solve your problem. Don't be the world reserve currency. The dollar won't be artificially strong. US assets won't be artificially strong. Gold will rip. Bitcoin will rip. China will import 1,000 tons of gold next year, and they'll have no trade surplus to come and ruin the inner fabric of your country. And the dollar will go down to its natural level, and you will finally have a currency where it's reasonable to have manual labor to produce stuff here. But when you hyper financialize the US markets, where, everyone in the United States is focused on margins, is focused on their stock price, they have to employ labor in China. The US dollar is too strong. But I do fundamentally believe that the US has found itself in a position where it benefits from a weaker dollar. Like, the rare earth situation, the US cannot go to war right now. So this is beyond like left, right, blue, red, Bitcoin or not. This is a national security threat at the US level. Is we cannot defend ourselves if China decides how long we go to war right now. And so it's about being able to produce our own stuff, being able to defend ourselves, being able to produce our own military equipment. And so for me, the US has found itself in a structural position where a weaker dollar is of national security. A higher Bitcoin and higher gold price is of national security. And so I do understand the idea that people, the intuition of like, well, they're not going to do that because they're destroying the very, system they created that's gotten them to this point. But I think there's a lot of room in between that to where, a gold price of $20,000 an ounce and a Bitcoin price of $1 million a Bitcoin or whatever that number is, does not mean that, trade still won't be priced in dollars, does not mean it. All it means is that, the global trade surplus that other countries like China are running are greatly reduced. I mean, what is Trump trying to do? He's flirted with capital controls. He's flirted with tariffs. All of this is just reducing the surplus other countries are running, which is going to help with the wealth gap in the United States of America, help with, how artificially strong the dollar is, all of these things. So I think there's like a logical next step, which is, the US supporting Bitcoin growth and working. And, the stablecoin thing for me, it's a Bitcoin play.
Mahler's closes with a message that's both emotionally and deeply real. Bad money doesn't just distort interest rates or asset prices. It reshapes society itself. When fiat currency can be printed at will, incentives erode. Hard work loses value. Speculation replaces real production. And over time, families, communities, entire nations begin to break down. Mahler's shares his own story. Growing up in a divorced household, witnessing firsthand how financial stress can fracture families.
Tell the US this: you guys want to grow the issuance of Tether? Send Bitcoin to 500,000. We could sit here and we could talk all the time about, what stablecoins are doing in emerging markets, and that's all true and well. But like, stablecoins are the reserve pair against the 5th largest asset in the world. So yeah. you want more stablecoin issuance, which is more T-bill demand. Send Bitcoin to 500,000, and then it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to debase the dollar, I'll tell you what, Trump, do not debase the dollar against housing. If housing starts ripping 60% CAGR, bad idea. People are going to be pissed. Do not debase the dollar against eggs. If groceries start ripping 60% CAGR, bad idea. Debase it against gold and Bitcoin. And if you need to print money and hide inflation, put all the extra liquidity in stablecoins. Send Bitcoin to 500,000. All the liquidity goes into stablecoins. And then if I was the US government, I would say, well, shoot, I need to make sure that the average American participates in this dollar debasement. Like, it'd be really bad if all these crypto bros sitting in an empty closet named Jack were the ones that benefited from all this dollar debasement and the gold and Bitcoin ripping. And so then you see Donald Trump proposing an executive order that opens up the American savings, opens up 401ks, and he's proposing to dump bonds and stocks out of 401ks and introduce allocation to Bitcoin and gold. So if I was the United States of America, I would go into everyone's savings account, dump their bonds, dump their stocks, buy Bitcoin, buy gold, send Bitcoin and gold higher, which is going to allow me to finance deficits at the front end because, all the stable coins are going to 10x in issuance, and I'll be able to issue a lot of T-bills. And so I think that version of the future is not like the US sacrificing the fiat like hegemony that they, right? I think that's like a very logical way to solve the problems they have now. And I think that's actually how politicians think. No one is incented in America to think 20 years from now. They're trying to get reelected. And I think that's what we're living through today. Like that FT article just came out. Donald Trump proposes an executive order to go in and rotate some of your stocks and your bonds into Bitcoin and gold, probably before they revalue the gold on America's balance sheet and Bitcoin rips and Tether becomes like $1 trillion company. Like that's like how it read to me. Society is only as strong and hard as its money. And hard, for the listeners, that's a direct reference of how hard is it to produce more of it. And so obviously dollar, very easy money. And so I think it's really deteriorated society. I think it's divided the country in every metric. Like literally the divorce rate in America is over 50%. So more than half of sitting America right now, their families are decimated and ruined. Like I grew up, I mean, this is now public. I talked about it in a keynote in Prague. I grew up in a divorce, like really changed me. And so whether it's divorce, whether it's blue and red, whether it's, socialism versus like so I think a better money actually will do really well in uniting the country again. I think a lot of our issues are rooted in the fact that our money is so bad. So that's my logic.
He believes that hard money that can't be easily created. Like Bitcoin has the power to restore fairness, productivity, and unity. A society, he argues, is only as strong as the hardness of its money. And in Mahler's view, adopting Bitcoin isn't just sound policy, it's a moral obligation to future generations. Jack Mallers isn't simply talking about number go up. He's talking about a complete restructuring of America's economic foundation. Thanks for watching if you found this valuable. The next video is even better. Click it now and let's keep going.